would like to graph y equal negative cosine 2x minus 3 up to 2 periods. Let's write down our function, which is y equal negative cosine 2x minus 3. And it's a good idea in the first step to write the general format of our cosine function, which is y equal a cosine bx plus c plus d. Okay, once you're done with that, once we are done with this, we are going to find our a, b, c, and d. So go ahead, find your a, b, c, and d. Okay, so the a is the coefficient of the cosine, which is -1. And the b is the coefficient of the x, which is 2. And then finally, our c is right here, which is 0. And then d is going to be the midline, which is going to be -3. Okay, we are done with that. Now, the amplitude. Amplitude is always absolute value of our a, which is the coefficient of the cosines. That means absolute value of -1, and that is going to be +1. So remember that absolute value really means that is the distance from the midline to the max or the min of the function. We'll look at that when we do the graph. Lastly, the period. The period is really 2 pi divided by absolute value of b. That means you're going to write 2 pi divided by 2, which is equal to pi. In order to do a nice graph, we need to label or find the x-scales. So let's find the x-scales. How are we going to do them? In our class, we always divide the period for sine and cosine into 4. The reason for that is because sine and cosine reaches its period after 4 values. So we're going to take the period. So the period is going to be pi in our case, and we're going to divide it by 4. And once you do that, then what you really need to do is you're going to say 1 pi over 4, then you're going to say 2 pi over 4, and then 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4. So I always tell you that whatever you find the period, just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you could just simplify that and put that on your x scales. And there you go. So 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4 is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4 is just pi. And then label the left side. Label the left side also the same way with the negative numbers. So let me take a marker, and I would tell you that once you mark the right side, we mark the left side, and then we also make sure that we label our y-axis, some positive and negative numbers. Now, once we are done with that, the last step is that we have to pay attention to our midline. This is really important, midline. So our midline happens to be -3. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line, okay, and in the midline right here. I hope you see the yellow. Okay, so that's our midline. And then what we're going to do is from the midline, you really have to pay attention to your amplitude. The amplitude is really the distance from the midline, 1 unit up and 1 unit down. Okay, so now all you have to do is draw 2 more lines, okay, and that would really help you to identify what's the range of your graph. So let me just do that. So I'm going to go 1 unit up, and I'm going to be right here. and then 1 unit down. So do your best. Okay, good. So we got the midline. Remember that your midline is y equal -3. That's the equation. And we're going to go 1 unit up because that's what the definition of the absolute value is. Well, once you go 1 unit up, you could go 1 unit down too. Okay, we're done with that. Now, we are going to do the last step. But before we do the last step, I know that you're anxious to see the graph. But please remember that how, in general, we're trying to avoid doing a table. But we could make a table from our graph and the unit circle because once we know how a graph of cosine looks like, we could do the rest. Okay, so let me get a different color. Let me do green right now, okay? And I want to do the graph of y equal, why is my pen not working? Okay, y equal, okay, now should be good. We gotta write down the y equal negative cosine. Let's see how that looks like. So you pick 4 values, 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative cosine can go 1 up and 1 down. Okay, so, but anyway, if it's say positive cosine will start at 1, if it's negative starts at -1, because we are doing y equal negative cosine x, we start at the min point. And then, so this is our min point. And then from here, we're going to go to the middle line, our midline. And then the next value, we're going to go to the max. And then coming back to the midline. And then going down to the minimum. Okay, so we're going to do our nice graph. That's the negative cosine, okay? And now we're going to do the same thing here. So we start at our min. We're going to go to the mid. We're going to go to the max. And then we're going to go to the mid. And finally, we go back to the min, okay? So we do our nice graph right here, which is really beautiful, okay? And now we're going to go to the left and do exactly the same thing. Let me get a different pen color. And we are at the min right now, so we're going to go back to the middle lane, our mid lane. And then we're going to go back up to the max. We keep on going up till we cannot go. And then we are basically doing this graph. And then we're going to go back down to the midline, and we're gonna rest at the minimum point, just exactly like the other one. Guess what? From here to here is 1 period. And then from here to here's another period. So altogether, we did 2 periods. And thank you for watching. I hope this helps. And I think you're ready for your test and quiz, okay? See you guys in class.